Peace negotiations on Ukraine are inevitably highly likely to take place on Turkish territory in the near future. And the war is currently at a point close to a possible cessation. This is a new statement from the head of Turkey's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Hakan Fidan. Commenting on this, Western experts are not ready to fully share the top diplomat's optimism, but they are unanimous in one thing. Russia's economy is on the brink, and its condition is what could push the Kremlin toward negotiations and ending the war. Why and how exactly? Our special correspondent in Washington, Dmytro Onopchenko, has gathered the answers to the main questions.
The cost of this war for Russia is not just enormous. The scale of the financial losses is staggering. Ukrainian military intelligence has estimated Moscow's daily expenses at $857 million. Just imagine, that's every single day. Over $100 billion a year on fuel, ammunition, and military equipment sent to the Ukrainian front. Another $10 billion a year goes to maintaining the occupied territories. And the situation keeps getting worse.
Signs of collapse are everywhere. Oil revenues have dropped by 27%, partly due to Ukrainian strikes. The cost of living is sky high and unemployment is dire. The bodies of the dead keep being brought back from the front. The National Welfare Fund, which once held $300 billion, now has maybe only $100 billion left. They've already spent some reserves, and the others accumulated over years and now frozen in Brussels will never be returned to Russia. I'm confident Europeans will eventually decide to direct these funds to Ukraine for reconstruction.
Western experts have often emphasized that sanctions have a cumulative effect. Yes, economically, Russia has held out longer than expected. But if pressure in the oil sector continues to gradually increase, the Kremlin will eventually no longer be able to ignore the consequences.
At every turn, sanctions are creating huge problems for Moscow, new ones each time. And when Putin says that the restrictions don't hurt him, that's just bravado and arrogance. They strike very deeply, especially when they take away a significant part of Russia's vital oil business. This really hits Moscow hard, and that's definitely a good thing.
For example, Moscow's profits from oil and gas sales have significantly dropped by 2 trillion rubles over the first 10 months of this year. Both due to new restrictions and the need to sell energy resources at a discount, the effect of Ukraine's new drone strike strategy against Russian oil refineries has also accumulated. The Kremlin's losses from these are estimated in the West at $127 million per day, which amounts to $46 billion a year, provided the intensity of hostilities remains the same.
That is, the effect comes not only from Western sanctions, but also from a kind of sanctions that Ukraine imposes on Russia by bombing its industrial facilities, particularly oil refineries and other energy infrastructure. This is now having a cumulative effect.
And Western experts are now unanimous. If you want concessions and negotiations from Moscow, restrict oil sales even further.
Essentially, Russia has only one main source of income: oil sales and the taxes from them. This is the money that sustains the Russian war machine. Waging war is actually very expensive for Russia. Buying ammunition from North Korea, drones from Iran, paying huge bonuses to poor people from the provinces so that they go to the front and essentially become cannon fodder in Ukraine. All of this is expensive. When this money is cut off from Moscow, they can buy less weapons, incentivize fewer people to go to their deaths in Ukraine. This makes continuing the war much more difficult for Moscow.
Moscow has compensated for strict restrictions by finding loopholes to get around them. For example, by using a shadow fleet. That's why the next set of restrictions, not only European but also American, are being developed against these vessels.
All of this seems to finally be coming to an end. All these sanctions evasions and all these loopholes, and now reality is starting to bite Russia painfully.
And the reality is also that Moscow's so-called friends and partners, according to Western economists, are actually profiting from it, because they've significantly raised the prices of goods they send to Russia. And Russia has no choice in the matter.
Russia is currently in a weak position, and sensing this, others are hiking up prices for it, taking advantage of the situation partly because they're not even sure they'll get paid tomorrow. So currently, no one is letting Russia trade on credit.
How much longer will their reserves last? How much time is left until the economic deadline? Experts are not willing to specify down to the exact month, but they say that pressure through restrictions must continue. Because by all available indications, the moment is approaching when the problems will become critical.
There will come a time when Putin will no longer be able to continue this war. I suspect that all this immense pressure on the armed forces of Ukraine, which is now being exerted in Pokrovsk and generally in Donbass, is directly related to the feeling in Moscow that their time is running out. And that in the early years of the war, as they say, time was on Russia's side. But now it isn't. It's not exactly in Ukraine's favor, but dragging things out no longer benefits Russia.
For so long, the Kremlin didn't care about either human losses or financial costs. But now, the snowballing of problems, issues, and complications has led to a situation where Moscow can no longer fight at any cost and will have to at least change its strategy, experts predict.
Putin's main approach to this war simply is not to think about the cost of anything at all. He doesn't care about human lives, financial expenses, or equipment losses. If he runs out of money, he will eventually have to take that into account. This is the objective we have in the West, to put him in a position where he absolutely simply can no longer afford it.
Because at some point, it will no longer be about money or poverty, but about survival, about preserving the regime. There will be a significant choice to make, to continue even at the cost of losing power, or to stop in order to try to keep it.
There has already been a historical example of this. Russia is waging a foolish war, losing it, soldiers return home, they're fed up, a revolution happens, and everything changes.
And just as the Allies opened a second front during World War II, in Washington, they say that such a front, only economic this time, is needed now as well. If Russia loses on this front, it will also stop on the battlefield, agreeing at least to a ceasefire along the dividing line. This is not yet peace, but it is already a lot. From Washington, Dmitry Onopchenko, Serhiy Koval, American Bureau of Inter TV Channel, United News Marathon.